Would somebody like to make Councilwoman Hamilton?
Councilwoman Hosky, I'd like to make a motion to exclude 45-04 from the list.
And make it its own separate item?
Yeah, make it its own separate item.
Councilman Cohen, you approve?
Second.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Councilman Bruno and Massaro. So, okay, I just dropped everything. I'm sorry. So we're just looking to take out the West Haven Community House after school for the $64,000, separate it from the amount. And that, okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Councilman Cohen, you wanted to abstain from that vote? Motion carries.
So that,
Yes.
that was the approval of the amendment. So now the original motion has to be voted on.
Right, got it. So can I have a motion to bring out the original? I'm confused. You confused me with what you said because I thought I knew what I was doing, which is getting Barry not to vote on the what you call it, but now what do you mean? I think I know what I'm doing.
I believe that the original motion, there was a motion to approve and seconded. So now then Councilwoman Hamilton amended that motion to
Right.
include the community house dollars.
Correct.
So a vote was taken on the amendment. And
Correct.
now you have to go back to the original motion. You're going to approve all of those funds except for the community house money. And then once you do that, you'll put another motion forward if in fact you want to approve the community house money standalone.
Correct. Okay, so I didn't know what I was trying to do. Okay. So we want to vote on the amended with the removal of the West Haven Community House. Can I bring that out favorably? Councilwoman Cohen, thank you. Can I get a second? Councilwoman Hamilton Massaro, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So now I also want to bring out favorably the 45-042 for the West Haven Community House After School Program for the $64,055 favorably. Councilwoman Massaro, thank you. Can I get a second? Councilwoman Hamilton, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councilman Barry Cohen abstains. Thank you. The time is now 7:25 and your Committee on Finance has closed.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Next committee is the Sustainability Committee, Councilwoman Finelli.
Thank you, Chairman. The time is now 7:25 and the Sustainability Committee is now in session. Members present are Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman Hosky, Councilwoman Johnston, Councilwoman O'Connor, and myself acting as chair. Tonight we have before us Communication E from Corporation Council in regards to a solar agreement with Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC. So I have a motion to bring this out favorably. Councilwoman Hamilton, Hosky, and Johnston, and O'Connor, so everyone. And do I have a second? Okay, Councilwoman O'Connor. And I believe we have, I think we have Attorney Tiernan on the line and also our energy consultant who can speak to this way better than I'm sure I can. So would you just, and I'm sorry, that's you, Adam Teff, correct? Okay. Would you just be able to kind of go through and explain this in the simplest terms that any, not just the other council members, but that any, kind of residents watching at home who may not have any knowledge of how these, solar panel contracts work?
Sure. Lee, do you want me to take that, or do you want to take it? I'm happy to take it.
No, I got you on the call, buddy, so you
Yep.
can let me
Okay.
know about techie stuff.
Sure. So the simplest explanation is that what Green Skies is proposing to do is construct and own and operate a series of solar arrays on capped landfills within the city. And the financial benefit back to the city, it would be in the form of credits on their utility bills. So they'd be applied to the Board of Ed, to the city UI accounts. Basically, it's the value of that energy that's created on these properties would be credited back to the UI invoices. So there's a significant cost savings to be had there for the city. These parcels are basically good for nothing else. And it's an entirely hands-off proposition for the city. There's no cost involved. There's no ongoing maintenance or insurance. It is truly, an opportunity for the city to participate in the utility incentive programs that make all this possible and be the beneficiary of energy credits along the way for a period of 20 years.
Thank you. And would you just be able to explain, where's my packet? I know, so it appears that Green Skies was kind of the most profitable over a 20-year period of time. One question that I had though was they had two different kind of charts with different amounts on them. Can you just explain like what the difference is between those two? Are those two different contract options that they proposed to us?
Yeah, so the reason that there was some variance there, and I think this is part of where I fit in as well to try to help navigate through this process. There was a low end and a high end range of savings that the city could realize based on the value of the incentive that we could secure from UI. And again, using kind of simple terms, the way that the incentives work in UI is that you submit a bid effectively, and UI goes through and selects the lowest bidders first. So that the folks who ask for the least amount of money get their awards first. And what you want to do is, you want to make sure that you're not asking for too much, but not asking for too little either. But you want to ensure that you get that incentive award, because without it, this whole concept doesn't work. So even on the low end, I think, which is a really conservative and safe number, the financial performance is still really strong for the city. Green Skies they submitted an alternative bid with the idea being that if we asked for more money from Eversource to incentivize the project, then we could pass more savings along to the city. I'm just personally not 100% sure that, it's in the best interest of the city to take that kind of risk. I think maybe somewhere in the middle or on the more conservative end would guarantee that the projects are selected and those, again, financial benefits are still really strong. So I guess it's a question of how much, do you want to risk potentially not getting the incentive if you take a more aggressive approach towards the amounts you ask for. But that's really the only difference.
Okay, so even when we on our end kind of go forward with this, there's still a chance that Eversource could not accept the offer.
UI.
Yeah, UI.
We're
So
not Eversource.
Okay, I didn't. Well, he said Eversource. I was like, wait, where?
oh, did I? Okay, I apologize.
All right.
UI. Yeah. So again, I think there's the risk that you would not be selected for that very conservative estimate. I think is pretty much zero. I think you have no risk there. If you were to double what you ask for, as Green Skies has put out just like as an alternative bid, you start to veer into the realm of, I don't know if I'm as confident anymore that you have 100% certainty. I think you start to, wager some of that probability away. So I just, as your consultant, I would recommend against reaching that far. I think, we could probably amp up the incentive request a little bit from the low end, but I would be hesitant to go all the way up to the high end as Green Skies had put out as an option.
So you think we'll end up getting more than the 6.8 million total on the low? Because I'm just looking at like the other company, what was it, ECA? Their total, annual benefit over, well, the combined over 20 years was 7 million. So that was kind of fell in between the two from Green Skies. Are we thinking we'll get at that with Green Skies?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could definitely go above the bottom baseline with Green Skies and still get this project selected. Part of this too, in analyzing all of the bids that came back was, there is a lot of times what we find is there's the bid that ends up on paper, and then there's what's possible at the site. And for capped landfills, they're among the more complicated of development opportunities for solar. So part of why I liked Green Skies in terms of advocating, if we're looking at, more than just apples to apples, like pricing, there's, I think a real question of capability and experience building on landfills and doing that successfully, navigating the process with deep, and with the utility. And, I think when I look at a company like ECA, just as a for instance, I don't believe they've done one of these here in the state. So that, that makes me a little bit nervous. Green Skies, I know they've done a number of landfills in the state, but the one closest by, I think, is actually North Haven, which is very similar geographically and with the topography and some of the environmental aspects. I think it's a really good kind of analog project to what's in West Haven. Because at the end of the day, I think part of why Titan is here is to make sure that we're evaluating everybody's bids for feasibility, financial value, ability to deliver what they have proposed. And I think Green Skies is very, very well capable of doing all those things.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else from the committee have any questions for Mr. Teff? Councilwoman Johnston?
Hi, thanks for being here tonight.
Sure.
My first question is maybe more pointed, and the second question vague, but they're really the same question. Is there any cost to the city if it didn't work out? And is there any reason not to do this at all?
Yeah, so there's absolutely no cost to the city. Again, I think the most important point to stress here is this is very much a hands-off type opportunity for West Haven. The reason that it's possible even in the first place is because the utilities have created programs that are seeking to drive landfill reuse. So these sites that basically have no other value, they're especially qualified for these projects that effectively put solar on those, and through the energy creation from those arrays, the town would receive financial credits on the bills. I mean, it's not something that anybody could just wake up one morning and decide to do. It's a very specific program for landfills, for municipalities. And I think, in my view, no, there is no reason not to do it, especially because there is no investment required from the city. These parcels are just sitting there dormant, creating, no value for anybody. And some of the risks, that we normally face with like rooftop solar, where, you have quality of roof issues and, structural engineering challenges and things, we just don't have those with landfill. An even worst case scenario, if deep, if there was some issue there on the environmental side, the city, under no circumstances invests a penny in this process. So even if it didn't come to fruition for some reason, which sometimes can happen, but it's rare, the city wouldn't have any exposure for fees or costs or anything like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Oh, was that all, Councilwoman? Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the rest of the council while we have you on. Does anyone else from the council as a whole have any questions about this? Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for coming on tonight. Much appreciated.
Sure.
This is going to be put over off of Spring Street, right? That area there.
There are two separate parcels. There's Front Ave and Spring Street.
Okay. And what happens after the 20 years?
Yep. So this is part of the details of when, if we're going to engage with Green Skies to work through the actual agreement. Typically what we see in these agreements is that under, there's again, no circumstance under which the city would be in a position to have to decommission the site, spend any money at all to bring it, back to its pre-solar state. That's all the responsibility of the folks who own that solar array. So that's your fallback plan. So that's if there's no value in extending the lease. There's, the useful life of the equipment is basically tapped out. It's, there's no more incentive programs. It's over. So that's your fail safe. The folks who own the array have to take the array down at their cost, bring the site back to pre-solar conditions, and again, without any cost to the city. There may be opportunities to extend that lease if there's a financial reason. So there is an option. Both parties would have to agree that it made sense, to do a 5 or 10-year extension. But again, that all kind of depends on future conditions of how the system is performing and what programs are in place with UI or the state at the time that would make this site useful.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I have. Councilwoman Finelli, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Chairwoman Finelli, and thank you again for being here. It was actually Chairwoman Finelli actually asked a question that I had as well, but I wanted to follow up on just one little piece of it. I was also coincidentally looking at the ECA proposal because it was, from my layman's eyes, it was so close to the Green Skies, and obviously I am far from any guru on this stuff, but I'm just kind of curious. As our consultant, what made you select Green Skies versus ECA? Was it less risk, or I'm just curious because it just looks so close to me.
Yeah. So a few reasons. So the design that ECA put together, again, this may be something where I look at these things all the time. So to my eye, it might look different, than to somebody else's. There are levels of intricacy at which you can design a system at this phase of the process. Everybody got access to the same information with the site walks and any documentation we had, topography maps, environmental data. Everybody got the same thing. But one of the big indicators of capability right out of the gate is the sophistication of the design, the initial design that folks put out. And ECA's, I thought, was frankly a little bit on the weak side. I don't think they took into account a lot of the features of these parcels that everybody saw and we all talked about on that site visit. So that was a little bit of a red flag. Their experience in Connecticut, as far as I can tell, is basically zero. And these sites, they can be pretty complicated. Having good relationships with DEEP is actually really, really valuable. Having gone through the process with them before, if the siting council has to be involved, these are just, they're all people, in these organizations that I think it's helpful to have the relationships with and the track record. It just lends itself to a smooth process. On the pricing side, based on, I think with ECA, I'd have to go back and double check. It's been a bit since I looked at it, but I thought that they were somewhat overinflating the system size of what was possible there. Again, that kind of speaks to my first point about how the level of detail and intricacy and accuracy of the initial layouts is kind of a first stop on the tour for me to evaluate. and I think that they didn't, again, it was inflated in that sense. So if you're looking at the bottom line of dollars, you think, oh, this is great. But if that array ultimately has to get shrunk by a factor of, 30% or so, then all of a sudden your savings are going to shrink too. And you're going to end up with something less valuable than you thought. So I think with Green Sky's proposal, I thought, their initial read on the land, the layouts that they presented were very thoughtfully done. I think they had very good ideas in splitting these up into effectively 4 separate systems, because that would keep it out of the Connecticut Siting Council, which is typically a really big headache for folks. It just drags the process out, and anyone who's been in front of the Siting Council before would tell you that it's just not a lot of fun. So if you can avoid that, great. And again, I look to the track record of the work that they've done throughout the state, not just in West Haven itself, but across the state and other landfills, other parcels that are similar to this. I referenced the North Haven array, which is on the landfill there. I think is very similar because both of these properties, they kind of share topography characteristics that I think are fairly similar sizes. And I think that they're going to be able to actually do what they, they say they can do, based on the technical analysis we did and our read of, the incentive programs and what, they can afford to pay out at this point to help make these economics possible. So that's kind of a long-winded answer as to why.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, Councilman Donovan?
Sorry, I meant to ask this before. Adam, did they say how long it would take to start and finish this project?
Yeah, so it's always, kind of the $1 million question with these. And I think a lot of it comes down to timing of a few different factors, one of which is actually on our side in this case, which is our ability to apply for incentives is actually going to be in about 6 to 8 weeks. So normally, sometimes we'll have to sit around for 6 months and wait for that window of opportunity to open before we can even apply, start the paperwork process. Luckily, we're in a good position where we'll be able to do that sooner rather than later. The major variables here tend to be deep and how quickly they'll engage with us and work with us to, help facilitate, which, I know that this is something that the state is really asked that group to focus on. So I think we'll get support from deep. I'm not necessarily worried about that. But from a permitting standpoint and a construction standpoint, and then getting the permission to operate from UI, realistically, probably about 18 months.
Okay, not that bad. We're just we're a little bit adamant here. You can understand when new projects come up, that's one of our questions. How long is it going to take? So
sure, yeah, totally natural question. Yeah,
definitely appreciate that. I believe I'm all set now, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Yes, we've all been scarred by the Haven, so that's always at the forefront of everyone's mind. Okay, are there any other questions before we take a vote? Chairman Quagliani?
Yeah, just for clarification. So my understanding is this is a strict credit-based system. We're not going to get any checks out of this, right? We're not selling the electricity anywhere. It's just going to come off of our utility bills.
Exactly.
Is there ever an instance where we would generate more than we would use?
Based on the size of these arrays and the total consumption of energy for the city portfolio, no, you are going to be well under the threshold of having excess.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah, trust me, we'll keep building arrays, all day long until you're maxed out. But for these particular sites, we're limited to a certain footprint. Yeah, it's I think about 30% of the total consumption for the town city.
Now listen, this is terrific. I mean, these landfills have been sitting there for decades upon decades, just with no use, a lot of liability, and now to be able to to generate some opportunities, I think is very valuable. So I'm looking forward to the project. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and so if there are no other questions, Councilman Massaro?
Hi, Adam. Glad you came out tonight. I
Yeah,
got
sure.
one question. Who's responsible for the system? In other words, if it breaks, who keeps an eye on it? Does somebody keep track of it? Does your company keep track of it? Does the city have any responsibilities if somebody goes up there and throws a rock in the thing? Who's responsible for it?
Sure. So Green Skies would be the owner of the asset. You know, from their perspective, you know, this is a multi-million-dollar investment. It will be fully insured. Typically speaking, there's security fences around it to just, you know, prevent casual, you know, interaction with your. I'm sure, you know, not a lot of people are up there hanging out, but that's definitely, you know, forefront of everybody's mind. And it is a fully hands-off operation for the city. You know, there's no instance in which the city will be responsible for maintaining, operating, insuring, fixing, etc. That is purely on the asset owners. It's their responsibility.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. Are there any other questions? All right, if not, all in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, so I believe motion carries unanimously. And the time is 7:48 and the meeting for the Sustainability Committee is over.
Thank you, Councilwoman Finelli. Okay, we'll enter into unfinished business. At this time, we have a police pension update. We have Dave Moran here from Raymond James. He's the administrator of the Police Pension Fund. We thought it'd be a good opportunity for him to give the council a little debrief on the police pension, you know, where it was, where it is, and hopefully where it's going as the council begins to have more and more discussions regarding the police pension. So I'll turn it over to Dave Moran.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, City Council, Mayor Rossi. So do we have the ability to share screens? Can everybody hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Yep.
You want to try sharing yours, Dave?
Sure. Let's see here. That's not the one I want. Pardon me, I apologize.
No worries.
Can people see that?
No. Did you hit share screen on the bottom?
I did. I'm not sure if I have the.
All right. Which one are you trying to put up?
The first one starts with council performance that I sent to you. I don't know why that's not sharing. I apologize. It certainly was earlier.
Yeah. Why don't you start and then I'll see what we could do here with our technical gurus.
Sure. So good evening. I just want to reintroduce myself. I know that I came before the city council about a year ago. My name is Dave Moran. I'm an institutional consultant with Raymond James. I've been working with the city for a number of years, giving advice to both the police pension and the West Shore pension. So tonight I want to go through, and hopefully by the time we get to the end, we'll have some visuals here. about who we are. So Raymond James is an investment bank, Fortune 500, based out of St. Pete, Florida. And we do a lot of things. We have about 8,000 advisors and a small group of advisors of about 200 to 300 that do it. Consult institutions, which is not only just pensions, but other defined benefit plans, including 457 and defined contribution plans like 401ks. You get to the next slide here, which I wish we could share. Let's see here. So there's really 4 jobs with what I do and with my team. So we go to these funds, and when we're hired, we do 4 different jobs. It's investment policy statement. So we go to the boards or to the city, whoever's running this money, and we create this investment policy statement, which is basically the rules of the game. And within that, we figure out what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and the parameters in which we're allowed to do it. So it's kind of a safety net for everyone involved. So it allows us to agree upon what's best for the city, and then we have to stay within that policy as a consultant. So after that, we go to our second job, which is asset allocation. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with the money. With that, we go out there and do studies on different capital market assumptions and different asset classes. We create this pie chart of what to do with the money. And then once we get that idea of what we're doing, we do what's called manager search and selection. So we go out there and hire the best people to manage it. And that could be anywhere from an index fund to a institutional mutual fund. It could also be a separately managed account, of which all 3 we invest money in.
Hey, Dave, excuse me, Dave, is this the right one or is there a different one?
Let's see. Sure. I kind of went through the first ones. So if you want to go down a little bit, Chief. So that's what I'm talking about right now. 4 steps, IPS, asset allocation, manager search and selection, which we do with a lot of different quantitative screens and qualitative by talking to managers of the country and the world. And then we do portfolio monitoring review. So we get in front of the client, we take a look at the portfolio, and then we get back to the client through meetings and tell them how things are going. And our job is to not only search, but also to hire and fire managers based on performance and other things. So if you look down a little bit farther, Chief, there you go. That's a representative list of local clients. These are all pension plans. Again, we do a lot of different stuff with Taft-Hartley's also, but this is a representative list of just West Haven and New Haven. And that's on the DB side, just about $1 billion that we consult to. If you want to go to the other attachment, that'd be great.
Now you're pushing it, Dave.
Yeah. We'll get into question and answer after this too. So I wanted to just be brief with the beginning of this presentation, and then get into the numbers, and then to get into some Q&A about the history of the plan. And any luck?
Is that it?
There we go. And this one's a little bit, you might want to make it a little bit bigger, because on the next page is, okay, go back to the top over there. Okay. So I went through who we are, who I am, what we do, local clients, and then I wanted to just do a little brief history of the plan. So back before 2002, very much like most other plans out there, not only in the country, but in Connecticut, we had a very underfunded status in West Haven with the police. Prior administrations going back to probably the 60s and 70s weren't able to keep up with their end of funding this plan. So back in 2002, I was working for UBS, the Swiss bank, and we were able to go out there and sell pension obligation bonds. So we went out, sold municipal bonds to individuals or institutions that wanted to buy them. And the goal at that point in time was to borrow the money from as a city and make the spread between what we were paying in interest to the people that bought the bonds and what we were going to make in the market over a 20-year period. So with that said, we're at the point where those are substantially paid off. I think they've been refied. Good question for Frank Czaplinski. But needless to say, it's been a very successful historical track record. There's been many cities around the country that have had good and bad results. So I'm proud of the fact that we've gotten through that. The fund is up to, as you'll see in the next page, over $133 million. This fund back in 2001 was $15 million. So we've not only paid back, when I say we, I apologize, not only has the city paid back those bonds that were borrowed, but we've maintained the fund and actually grown it over the years. So we're in the low 90 percentile for funded ratio. And our game plan, again, over time is to get to that 100% funded, which doesn't mean the city won't have to continue to fund on their side of it. But if I do my job as far as making money and hitting that, assumed rate of return each year, and with the city putting in money, which they have done very well over the last decade or so, over time and over the next 15 to 20 years, this should be not only fully funded, but it should alleviate the ability for the city to put more money in, and eventually it'll lean out. As we know, it's closed, and we're talking about other opportunities to look at options going forward. I'm talking to Attorney Tiernan about that, as well as Chairman Quagliani about a study that we're going to hopefully entertain. So we go down to the next page. Oh, that's it right there. You make that a little bit bigger, if you can. So this is what everybody's here for, and this is a performance review. And so what you want to look at here is two different things. On the top right-hand side, this is the asset allocation. So again, like I talked about, take a look at the investment policy statement, make sure everything's in good shape there. Go to the asset allocation side of it. And this is where we have parameters in which we can work. So sometimes we're overweighted in certain asset classes, sometimes we're underweighted in certain asset classes. So as you've been watching on TV over the last year and a half or so, or year, bonds have not been a great place to be. So we've been lower allocated to fixed income, and that's done well for us. In fact, ironically, tomorrow is the date where the market bottomed at the beginning of COVID. So it's good timing to have this meeting today. So if you look at the top right, you see the allocation. So as far as equities or stocks, we have an allocation to U.S. equities of about 54%. Total equities, just about 40%. If you look to the left, this is fiscal year to date numbers. Okay, so going back to July 1st of last year. The year to date number, we'll go to that second, but the custom number, which is the fiscal year to date, as you can see, up over 20% in the first 9 months of the fiscal year. So numbers that we usually don't see. This fund is built to try to get to the low 7 percentile range, which is, I believe it's 7 1/8 for the city of West Haven. So we're trying to make that return. So it's a combination of the city putting in their contribution, the portfolio returning their assumed rate of return, and over time, those two combined will get us to that funding level of hopefully 100+%. So versus our blended benchmark, which is basically the stuff on the top right-hand side on just the pure passive side or indexed side, we're trying to outperform a blended custom benchmark of those assets that we're invested in. As you can see, we're doing very well there versus our benchmark. And with that said, even more impressive is the fact that we're losing money in fixed income. So we're losing money in bonds, which is not a great thing to do. It hurts to lose money in stocks. It hurts even more when you lose money in bonds. But because of our investment policy statement, we need to own bonds because they're the ballast of the ship. We can't have this thing going 100% stocks because this is risk management as well as it is asset management. So with the loss in fixed income of the year, you can see on the bottom number there, the S&P 500 return, we're getting 64%. We're getting 75% of the return of the U.S. stock market, but only have about 64% of the money in stocks. So we're getting the best of both worlds. We're taking less risk and getting very comparable type returns in equities. And we're, again, trying to mitigate our losses in fixed income right now by having a low exposure to them, first of all, based on what we're allowed to do. And on the bottom right-hand side, we can get a little more technical, but we're very short in duration, meaning that we don't own long-term bonds. The relationship between a price of the bond and rates going up, which is called the duration, is inverse. So when rates go up and you own a bond that's longer out in date, you're losing money in that. So trying to stay short and mitigate that, because we do believe rates have gone up and might continue to go up. that's the good news and bad news. The good news is that that means that the economy is getting healthier, but it's also an inflationary thing. So a little bit of inflation is very good for the stock market. A lot, not so much. So we're seeing a little bit of that pullback in tech-heavy names right now, and some of that has to do with the bond market moving. So before I get into question and answer, my opinion going forward, there might be another page there, but it's pretty much the same information. My opinion going forward is that we stay allocated. We continue to obviously monitor the asset allocation on a weekly, if not monthly basis. I'm in the police department, by the way, every second Tuesday, if anyone wants to hear this in more detail. So we're trying to, again, stay allocated. We do believe that the market does have more room to run on the equity side. And that's a combination of COVID vaccines coming out and people getting healthier. The economy, the job market getting better. Earnings are going to be, good as far as the comp level because the economy is getting better and companies are pulling themselves out of what was going on. You have a very accommodative Federal Reserve, so they're trying to keep rates as low as they can. And then we have a huge fiscal stimulus packages that are coming out, and that money, when it gets into consumers' hands, is going to be put back into the economy. So it's all good. So unfortunately, there's been a huge divergence between Main Street and Wall Street. Main Street's been suffering, but Wall Street's forward-looking. And again, ironically, it's one of the best years we've had, through 9 months that I can remember. We rarely have double-digit gains, but we've only ever had 1 year that we were, negative double digits, and that was coming out of 08 into 09. So it's risk management. We're trying to make sure that we don't have these big, downdrafts in the portfolio. And we're trying to get to that, high single digits number over a long period of time with proper risk management. So with that said, I'll open up to any questions that anyone has.
Does anyone have any questions for Dave? And you're kind of on a tile view, so give me a second to see your hand. I don't see any at this point. Dave, I guess, listen, so those are terrific returns. And I'm sorry. Someone have a question?
Councilwoman Hosky, I have a few, but
Yeah, go right ahead. I don't even see on my tile. Go ahead, Councilwoman Hosky, you have the floor.
okay. Thanks so much for coming, Dave. I hear really great things about you all the time. You get huge kudos for the West Haven Police Department pension and West Shore. I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think like we voted maybe a year ago to have our money follow you, correct? Because
I believe it was last January, correct, when I switched employers.
Yes, so that's outstanding. So I have quite a few questions that I'm excited to ask you about. What do you charge to us for consulting? Like, what is the rate?
So there's two different ways of looking at it, and that's with the underlying management fees for the underlying investments. So we do have a decent amount of exposure to fixed income, to indexed products. So you have very low cost on the index products as far as index funds and then ETFs. So that's a way of lowering overall costs. And then you have actively managed accounts, which are separately managed accounts by outside managers. Those range anywhere from, so on the index side, anywhere from 5 basis points to maybe 10 or 15. On the actively managed side of it, it could be anywhere from 40 to 75 basis points. But if you look at the audits over the years, the blended total fee structure all in is usually in between right around the 50 basis point range on the total funds. And if you back out that, the consulting fee on that part of it is 25 basis points all in. So that's included in that number based on the blend between active and passive. And those numbers, I was going to go through historical numbers going back to, as long as I could, and they're in the Milliman reports, and I can't provide that for you. And those are broken out in the audits and the actual reports as far as annualized fiscal returns going back 15 years, and all expenses are in those also.
Mm-hmm. So do we get, and I'm being curious, so by having the police pension with you and West Shore being with you, do we get a better price? Because I have for longer than I like to hear myself repeat things, because I clearly have to a lot. I have encouraged different departments in our city to jump into the pool with you, right? I've spoken to the fire department. I've even spoken to the library about their endowment, thinking they should reach out to you. And if they have reached out to you, please tell me that they have. And then when they come before me the next couple of weeks for the budget, I won't have to repeat myself because I won't know they've already done it, but I don't think they have. That they should invest with you because you've done such great work. So if you were to have our 3 fire departments, our police department, and say the library endowment, all under the city of West Haven, would they get a better rate?
Absolutely. Negotiated. A lot of what we do, yes, the answer is yes. And secondly, a lot of what we do when it comes to the due diligence and the searching and hiring of these different asset classes is negotiating that for you. So I have the ability to go out to a manager and say, hey, if you're an individual and have $100,000 to invest, you're going to be paying, 1.5%. If I have, $1 billion to invest, I'm able to put leverage on these managers and say, hey, if we're giving you $5 million, $10 million, we need to get that cost lower. So it's a combination of not only the consulting fee, but also the asset management fees, which are always usually negotiated to a better rate than what you can do, without that type of leverage. So with that said, yes, there are larger consultants out there, much, much larger, but locally, we do have a decent amount of money. So we're able to go out and again, use that leverage. And that would be able to be done with West Shore, as we've done with Center District, with Allentown, with all the other names that you've mentioned, or even 401ks or 457s, you have it. So we are absolutely open to new clients. Let's put that specifically out there. So definitely looking to do that. I've talked to the city, and we'll continue to do that to solicit that. I've been grateful over the years not to heavily solicit all the different departments out of respect for whoever they're working with, but absolutely be willing to entertain going in there and doing a review, or at least presenting myself and what we want to do with it.
So I can appreciate you having respect for who we're doing business with now, but there just comes a time when we have to go where the money is, right? And it is my impression is that you've turned around the West Haven PD and West Shore. So I'm assuming you hadn't answered it directly at all, that you haven't heard from anybody, even though I've talked about it probably with the library for 2 years. This will be my 3rd budget. Maybe, no, this is the 4th one. I think 4 times I've mentioned it with them. So I'll be mentioning it again. So you were talking about the managers.
Can
Do you
I
have
jump
any?
in?
Sure, can I ask?
Well, it relates to that question.
So,
Just quick.
mm-hmm.
So we're going to put that stuff out to RFP, and obviously Dave's performance will be scrutinized through the RFP process. And if he's successful, then that would be the outcome. But remember that all these different funds are independently managed, so that the RFP information will probably end up being just that, information, and then we'll allow the other entities to not have to go out to bid with that, so that they could utilize Dave in a greater way, or utilize even another manager should that manager come in. I think, as you've heard Dave express, he's confident that his entity would come in with a very competitive way to save everybody money. So we are going to do that, but recognize that just because we do that, we can't, all these pension systems are independently managed, and we can't force it on anybody. We just have to provide them with the ability to understand that they're going to save money by going with the group that we utilize through the RFP process.
Correct. So I don't know what the for the library, for example, I don't know how they do it, but it's been 3 years and it is their endowment, and they can choose to do it or they can choose not to do it. but not to inquire in 3 years of how they might be able to do better with their endowment is a question that I think should be asked. They can,
Yeah, they'll
They-
have the ability, they'll have this information within the next 6 weeks.
so I just wanted to make sure, because if they had asked and we did all of this and I just didn't know about it and it didn't work out, that's one thing. But not to have asked in 3 years to make any inquiries on how they could do better with their money is concerning. I do have one more question about, I wrote it down, hold on, I wrote myself. Hold on, so do you have any active managers in fixed income to diversify away from the US Treasuries?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a manager in West Haven that's been around for quite a while called Cincinnati Asset Management. So Cincinnati is not a pure treasury manager by any means. They actually go into the high yield market, which is more corporate fixed income. And corporate fixed income has done very well. Now, it doesn't do very well in 2008, 2009, and it didn't do very well at the beginning of this crisis. However, as balance sheets have firmed up and as the economy gets better, high yield has a very high correlation to the equity markets. So we own not only treasury investments, we own corporate investments also within the fixed income market. And Cincinnati's done a very good job by, again, going out a little bit farther or a little bit lower on the credit quality. But with that said, that adds a lot of value when it comes to returns, and it diversifies versus pure treasuries. You wouldn't want to own a 30-year bond in the last 12 months, but you might want to own a lot of good corporate fixed income, especially, for example, in energy, where balance sheets were beat up but have come back very well, and you can see oil's done very well also. So different places in all of these different markets. That's why you look at the order of importance. Asset allocation is right up there with picking managers hand in hand, because again, it's where to be in the market, not only just who's managing it, but where to put it and at what percentages.
Right. So I really do thank you for answering my questions. I mean, I just think that it's really important, you know, for anybody that West Haven is doing business with, the fire departments, the police, whichever, that we need to be shopping for the best. You know, status quo and just being okay with it, you know, that was 5, 6, 7 years ago. We really need to really push everybody to, you know, shop for what we need and who's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. So thank you so much for answering my questions. I really appreciate it.
I have just one thing to add with that is that pension business is unique. It's not like many others, so that it's not just managing the money, which is the most important thing. But there's a lot of interactions with actuaries. There's a lot of interactions with auditors. Actuaries come to us and vice versa with ideas about, you know, where we're going to, you know, make these returns and how, you know, over 7 years and 20 years where these opportunities are. So we do a lot of study and a lot of analysis forward looking to figure out, you know, can we get to these numbers with the right amount of risk? So it's not just going out and managing an individual's portfolio. There's a lot to it. Not only that, but, you know, there's a lot to making sure pension checks go out on time and dealing with all the administrative part of it also. So yes, there's a lot to do with making money, but there's also a lot to do with making sure that we don't lose the money also. Because that management fee is not a big thing when it comes to $135 million if you don't do the right thing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Other questions from the council? Dave, my question is, and I know that it's got to be covered with, you know, with the actuary, but as more and more active members transition to retirement, there's less and less money put in by the actives. So at some point, we're going to get to a point where there's no more money being put in, and that's going to have to either be supplemented by you performing a little bit better or the city putting in more ARC. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a combination of both of those, but there's mortality tables too. Chief. So you're looking at, less money being put in, more people retired, but you're also looking at, unfortunately, people passing on. So over time, if you look at a frozen plan like this, and if you look at it 10, 20, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, again, there will be less people getting benefits out of it. It actually, I had a Milliman report. I don't want to get too much into it tonight, but there's a couple of good actuarial reports that you can look at going back. In fact, they're working on one right now. But if you look at that, it's got all of those charts in there that talk about where the fund should be at certain dates in the future. And this fund actually in about 2046, if we do our job, should be in a place where that liability is coming down, not going up. And then eventually it will deplete itself after probably all of us are long gone.
Thank you.
Meaning it's done its job, not necessarily been depleted, but done its job and paid everybody the benefits.
Right. Any other questions for the council? Councilman Massaro and then Councilman Cohen.
Hi, Dave, how are you?
Good.
The police pension, though, you gotta face facts that back in the 80s, the mayor at the time did bond $67 million to start that pension back up again.
Mhm.
But you had a pretty good sum of money to start increasing your pension, where some pensions started with very, very low amount of money because it wasn't properly handled. And right now they're trying to build some of their pensions back up where they were supposed to be. Meaning that one of the fire departments, which I did belong to, had a very, very poor pension about 13 years ago. And right now, with the amount of guys that are involved in that pension, has done very, very well. We started with almost $300,000. Where right now, today, they're up to close to $10 million. So, I mean, the police department is doing very, very well. Don't get me wrong, but they had a good head start as far as I'm concerned. And if you didn't have that head start, there wouldn't be that much money in there as it is today, right now.
Correct.
I mean, a lot of people got to face facts that if they didn't have that boost, the police pension would be still in big problems.
Oh, absolutely. It was a challenged proposition when it went down because there's risks involved. You're borrowing money. And if you don't make that spread, there could be a problem there. And it goes back to 2002. And again, there's case studies all over the place of people doing it well and other people not doing it well. So I think the city did a good job of making that decision back in the day. The bonds have been paid, and you still have a fund that's pretty close to 100% funded. So there's good stories and bad. This one happens to be a good one right now. But I agree with you. If you look back at that list of clients, very few of those clients are anywhere near this number. Cities, it's all public information, what I do. So City of New Haven's, most of their public pensions are in the 40% funded level. And a lot of them are worse. I'm going in front of the fiscal responsibility board in Hamden on the 30th, I believe, or April 1st. And we're going to talk about some of their pension woes and what might be possible to do with that. So it's pervasive. It's all over the country, and hopefully this will stay in a good spot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dave. Dave, it's a silly question, but let me preface this by saying I am colorblind, so trying to follow some of the colors on the chart were kind of tough for me. My first question was, is what you showed us was just the West Haven Police or the West Shore? Was it both of them together? But which were you showing us? I'm sorry.
It was West Haven Police Department.
Was
That's why I
the
was here for
police
the review
department.
tonight. I just did Councilman Bernetti would know that I just did Brunel would know that I just did a review in West Shore, which was very positive also about 2 weeks ago. This is
Right, so-
simply the police department.
Right, that's what I thought, because I know we went back and forth, but you're working on the one there. The other thing is, going back to what Councilman Hosky said, I was very impressed with the basis points. Your charge are very, very competitive, and to the point that the chairwoman that Councilwoman Hosky said is, if there were some bundling, economies of scale, whatever you might want to call it, it's something that I do hope that the other departments will eventually RFP or whatever they need to do. Very good question. Then finally, my last question is for the chairman. Chairman Quagliani, would it be possible to get a copy of that couple of slides? It'd be great. Send it out.
Yeah, I'll have Michael send out the two documents tomorrow.
All right, thanks so much. Thank you again. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Dave, thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for their continued business. It's greatly appreciated. And thanks for taking the time to listen.
Okay. That takes care of unfinished business. The council will now convene as a whole to go through our committee reports. I'd ask the clerk to read communication B into the record.
We have before us communication B from the tax collector in regards to overpayment refunds for the month of March 2021, which will be filed with tonight's minutes.
Thank you, Stacy. Now we'll hear the committees report out. The first committee is the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of distribution of the COVID-19 funding, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2020 to consider said matter. It is the majority's opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. The City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the modification of the 2015-2020 5-year plan and the program year 45 action plan. West Haven Community House after school, $64,055. Don't I have to read that separately from the other one? So that everyone, oh, okay.
Yes, so you were on communication D from the February meeting, correct?
Oh, I can't do that one first. I apologize.
You can, you can.
I don't think Stacy looks like I can. I'll go back. I'm sorry. Go to A. No, I just thought because that was old, it was supposed to come first. That's my thought. My apologies. Said go to A. To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of interdepartmental line item transfers, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2021 to consider said matter. It is unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the following interdepartmental line item transfer. Line item, the line item 1950001052580, equipment maintenance repair increase of $12,000. Line item 1950010561010, unallocated contingency decreased by $12,000. Line item 1950030532502, tools and maintenance equipment increase $71,000. Line item 1950010561010, unallocated contingency decreased by $71,000. Line item 1950030534440, medical supplies increase of $3,500. Line item 1950010531110, office supplies decreased $2,000. Line item 19500105560, radio equipment decreased $1,000. Line item 19500105690, miscellaneous decrease $500. Line item 19500105236, business expense increase $1,000. Line item 1950010523330, training and education decrease $1,000.
Councilwoman Hosky's brought forward communication A from Allentown Fire Department in regards to an interdepartment line item transfers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Cohen and Bruno. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
Communication C, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your communication on finance to whom was referred the matter of the animal shelter donation. Reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2021 to consider said matter. It is a unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved that the following donations to the Department of Police Service be approved and deposited into line item 101000000282885 animal shelter donations. Marianne Miller for $50, Kathleen Smith for $50, Ernest Bohm for $50, Tracy Wrestling for $15, Angela Russo for $100, Betty McMillan for $15, Anthony Moreau Jr. $25, Paul Brogan for $50, and Stop and Shop for $316.
Councilwoman Hoskins brought forward communication C from Police Chief Joseph Perno in regards to animal shelter donations. Is there a second? Second, Councilman Massaro, Councilman Donovan, Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion on these donations? Seeing none, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion passes unanimously.
Communication D, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance to whom was referred the matter of the animal shelter donations. Reports to the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2020 to consider said matter. It is unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved that the following donation to the Department of Police Service be approved and deposited into line item 101000000282885 animal shelter donations. Laura Parisi, $75, A.W. Dominics, $50, Florence Palermo, $25, Kimberly Canning, $25, Raymond Polowitz, $25, and Linda Brummage, $25.
Councilwoman Hoskins brought forward communication D from Police Chief Joseph Perno in regards to animal shelter donations. Is there a second? Councilwoman Hamilton and Johnston. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Communication D from 222 to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance to whom was referred the matter of distribution of COVID-19 funding. Reports to the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2021 to consider said matter. It was the unanimous, I have to read the other one too, right? It was unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the modification of the 2015-2020 5-year plan and the program year 45 action plan. West Haven Human Resources Emergency Funds, $30,000. The CDA Health Educator, $28,160. Fish Food Supply, $15,000. Vertical Church Food Pantry, $31,122. Clifford Beers Tutoring, $15,000. Wheat, $42,300. West Haven Health Department, $150,000. Maricash, $26,302.
Councilwoman Hoskins brought forward communication D from the 2/22/21 agenda from CDA Manager Mark Basaki in regards to the distribution of COVID-19 funding as was read into the record. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Cohen, Galliano, Hamilton. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilwoman Hosky.
I forgot to mention earlier that I want to just thank the Board of Ed, Superintendent Neil Cavallero and Chris Everone. I reached out to them. They had applied and were awarded initially $12,000, but they had graciously return the money so that it could be allocated elsewhere because they did get state and federal funding. It is not something they were required to do. It was something that they chose to do so that others could benefit from that money. And I just wanted to make sure that we recognize that and that just the residents of West Haven know that they had done that for them.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Is anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Abstain, Councilwoman O'Connor. And that motion passes by majority.
To the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Finance, to whom was referred the matter of the distribution of COVID-19 funding, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2021 to consider said matter. It is the majority opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, the City Council of the City of West Haven hereby approves the modification of the 2015-2020 5-year plan in the program year 45 action plan. The West Haven Community House After School Program is awarded $64,055.
Councilwoman Hosky has brought forward communication D2 from the 222 agenda regarding community development funding for COVID-19. Is there a second? Second, Councilwoman Finelli and Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilman Bruno. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing no one, call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? Keep your hands up. Councilman Cohen abstains, Councilwoman O'Connor, Councilwoman Johnston, and myself, Councilman Quagliani, abstain. If the public is wondering, Councilman Cohen, Councilwoman Johnston, and myself sit on the Community House Board of Directors, and Councilwoman O'Connor sits on the CDA Public Committee. Is that correct, Councilwoman O'Connor?
It's the Citizens Advisory Committee. You were close.
Thank you. Thank you. Stacy, did we get the 7 votes necessary?
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes by majority.
And that's all that we have in finance.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Next committee is the Sustainability Committee, Councilwoman Finelli.
Okay, to the Honorable City Council of the City of West Haven, your Committee on Sustainability, to whom was referred the matter of an agreement with Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC, reports that the committee met on the 22nd day of March 2021 to consider said matter. It is the unanimous opinion of the committee that the following motion be presented. Resolved, that the mayor of the City of West Haven is hereby authorized to negotiate a contract for a solar field on city-owned property in the area of Front Avenue with Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC, consistent with the terms that Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC submitted to the City of West Haven during a formal city bidding process, and which bid submission by Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC is incorporated by reference in this motion.
Councilwoman Finelli has brought forward communication E from the Corporation Council in regards to a solar agreement with Green Skies Renewable Energy LLC. Is there a second? Councilman Galignano, Councilwoman McGee. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Any? Councilman Cohen, you're in favor? Okay. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. All set, Councilwoman Finelli?
All right, yes, we're all set. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, adoption of ordinances previously presented. There are none. Do we have any council liaison reports this evening? Council Finelli?
So I just want to report that the pollinator pathway is in its kind of second phase of looking for some areas to plant some native plants. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, Dave Carr, who's a citizen of West Haven in the 8th District, has really spearheaded this and kind of led the way on it. Last May, there were over 600 plants put at Sandy Point, Brett Watt Park, Marginal Drive, South Street, Lake Street, Abbott Park, and Bradley Point. This year, they're looking to get commitments from the library. Other sites might possibly include 3rd Ave, Bloom Street, and Helm Street. And these parks or these different places along this pathway are kind of meant to, they'll plant native plants to attract bees to pollinate, other plants and vegetation in the area. They're currently raising money for this, and if they can raise $5,000 by April 25th, Sustainable CT will match that $5,000. So this is an opportunity for the city to take advantage of getting this additional $5,000. If anyone would like to donate, you can go to https patronicity.com/project/pollinator. Or actually, no, scratch that. Go to pollinator-pathway.org/West Haven. And I think you can make a donation from there. And there will be metal signs available that are $5 each. And I'm not sure, Chairman, do you know if this is information that is anywhere on the city's website that people can go to find this?
I do not, but I'm going to ask Michael if we could put it on the city website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And this is not a liaison report, but just sorry, I'm on my phone, so I can't see everyone all at once. Is the mayor still on the meeting?
I don't see her.
Mayor Rossi is not. Okay. I would just like, this is more of a question for the mayor. I don't know if there's anyone who is on right now that would be able to answer this, but as we get closer to the summer, that now that we're into spring, last year, it was a huge problem with beach parking. And I know we've talked a lot about doing something about it. I kind of would just like an update on, is there anything being done to make sure that we don't run into the problems that we had last year with people from out of town, just kind of parking all along the side streets? I understand if the mayor's not on right now, I'm probably not going to get an answer to that question, so I can follow up in an email.
Yeah, I wrote it down to follow up, but I know that the Corp Council's on. I don't know if that has anything to do with the parking study or not, Corp Council?
Yeah, so there's trying to cover that on two fronts. One is we've even ordered the signage. So we will be signage up probably first, try to manage parking in and around the waterfront at least, so that's better managed. And my target date for a managed parking that is monetized is more like May 15th. And at the same time, we're the LAS group that's doing the parking study is preparing for a plan that extends past Labor Day so that we fully monetize what we're doing. So we should be, well, I can say unequivocally, we will be better prepared for beach parking regardless of the COVID status. But we actually should be better prepared to be increasing our revenue along the beach. So we're going to cover it on both sides. The police chief has been alerted and has given us the thumbs up from the plan. The public works director has already ordered signage and already has a plan as to where that will be implemented. And then, again, like I said, the LAS group is just looking for us to expand and maximize all the monetized areas where we can get beach parking so that we get people out of the neighborhoods into the monetized spaces. That helps neighborhood people and it helps the city.
Is that helpful for Councilwoman Finelli?
Yes, thank you. That is very helpful. I'm glad to hear that we're both kind of being helpful to the residents and also, taking advantage of an opportunity to make some money here off some of that parking. So thank you.
So let me just make sure there are no other council liaison reports. I don't see any, so we could go into new business. Does anybody have any new business? Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Well, one, Lee, anything about the kiosks? I don't know if I might have missed that. Anything about update on the kiosk, did he talk about that already, by the way?
I think that's part of the LAS proposal that's going to come to us. Is that correct, Corp Council?
Councilman Donovan, you're just going to have to be a little patient, but yes, the management of the kiosk has been included for analysis.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much, Lee. The other thing is that, as most people know, the residents may not know, the mayor's doing a ribbon cutting ceremony this Saturday at 9 o'clock at the new dog park, which is located at the old Nike site. But personally, I'd like to thank Ernie Chirelli. He's the one that saw this property and had a vision and really put a lot of work into it. And I just want to thank him for all the effort that he did in Public Works, and Dan Potter and his volunteer group for cleaning up and painting and doing what they had to do as well. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Is there any other new business in front of us this evening? Councilwoman Hosky?
So I don't know if anyone realizes, but in my free time, I am a huge fan of sports. And I just wanted to recognize that the girls basketball team at West Haven High School will be in the championship on Friday against some other team. And the boys basketball team is as well still in the playoffs. Both of them, the seasons, have been cut short. They are still having an SEC championship. So the SEC championship for the girls will be Friday night. You can view that on the West Haven Athletics YouTube page, unless, of course, you want to come hang out with me. I might be able to get you into the game. I'm a really good time. And the boys' game tomorrow against Wilbur Cross will be a battle to watch. And then their championship game, I think, will be one day again this week, too. And just another point of excellence, they do have a senior on the team. His name is Malcolm Duncanson, and I call him Mr. 1000 because he scored 1,000 points in his high school career, which is something that if you're a sports fan, is huge to have done in high school. So if anyone is interested, also the girls hockey team as well is still in the battle for their playoffs. So a lot of good stuff going on at the high school. So if you're a sports fan, it's all there on West Haven Athletics on YouTube. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky. Any other new business? Councilwoman Hamilton.
It's kind of my same old announcement. The clothing drive has been going very well. And I thank all those who have stopped by, and you're always welcome to come and say hello. Again, it will be Saturday at the Seven Rock Plaza. Starts at 11 to 2. If you know anyone that is in need, please send them down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Any other new business? Yes, Councilman Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple of quick things. I did want to remind everyone that this Saturday from 9 to 12, they're having a Sandy Point beach cleanup. and marsh cleanup, Sandy Point Beach and Marsh cleanup from 9 to 12. And we're meeting there right at the Sandy Point Park. It's being sponsored by the Sandy Point Beach and Bird Sanctuary. They do a great job in keeping up that 2nd Avenue area, Beach Street area, and anyone who wants to join, if you have your own trash pickers or garbage pickers, make sure that you wear a mask and gloves. And I know that we could use the help, anyone that wants to give an hour of their time or what have you. They just do a great job down there. That was one thing. And I have one other point, if I may.
Sure.
One other subject. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to go back. I do appreciate Treasurer Mike's last concern for setting the record straight regarding the term of tax incentives or abatements, as he would call them. And so I like to do the same. And I do thank Mike for pointing out the correction. I'd also like to note at the last meeting that Corporation Counsel did his best to present an economic development update. And unfortunately, the mayor was unable to. I know that she was looking forward to it based on her town hall meeting that she had. She specifically stated that, but unfortunately, she couldn't make it. Otherwise, perhaps we could have settled that issue right there, but I guess not. Also, we're really dealing with facts right now. I think it's important because there's so much of my report that I gave that wasn't questioned. So I do want to make sure the public understands that there is a fact that we do not have an economic development director and we do not have a comprehensive development plan, at least not published, which includes milestones and responsibilities. We do things by ad hoc and in group. There's no strategic marketing plan. I'd also like to point out, which I said last time, that there was no question to, again, another fact, that when I was talking about the University Commons, it is a fact that it is a $42 million investment made by the developer. That is a fact. And we cannot expect phase 3, which is the forest, or phase 4, the old library, to be initiated because there seems to be that we have a major developer here and that he needs to fill vacancies. And if we had a good economic plan and economic development, that we would be more facilitating and helping developers. Tax incentives and abatements are a big deal, absolutely. But we really need that hands-on approach. And as I did say last time, again, another fact is that, when you talk to developers, which I have, and I've talked to property managers, that the scorecard or the grading system in terms of the city's response and responsiveness to them is really, we're hard to do business with. And it's very, very, it could be improved. And again, that's just facts. And what I did say about the havens, because I do want to make sure that we do have the facts straight, is I never said that the havens was or was not tax induced. What I did say, quote unquote, the havens has stalled for years, but hopefully the special taxation district will allow for no more excuses. That's exactly what I said. That was a fact. And again, I do appreciate the transparency that we all should give to this. Again, Allentown is a wonderful area. It's getting developed well. And again, I thank Mike Last for his version. And I also thank everyone for all the efforts that they've made, but I know that we can and must do better. Thank you so much for letting me once again reiterate to set the facts straight as stated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. Before we adjourn this evening, I just want to let those know that we had a technical issue and that the first several minutes of the meeting was not on YouTube or recorded. So I just want to note for the record that there were no public comments for the CDA under the Finance Committee for the Community Development Block Grant COVID money. I also do want to mention that the council did take a moment of silence for retired Officer Richard Rubito that passed this week, and also the victim that lost their life in the fire on Saturday, and the other victims that were injured and lost property both on Saturday and Friday. And Stacy, before we adjourn this evening, if you could reread the public comment for tonight's meeting that into the record.
To the City Council. Good evening, Chairman Quagliani and members of the West Haven City Council. My name is Michael Lass, and I am the elected treasurer for the City of West Haven. My address for the record is 62 Great Circle Road. I look forward to better times when I can stand before you, but until then, thank you for making it possible for the residents to testify and make public comments to the city council. I watched the March 8th, 2021 council meeting online. I would like to express my concern about remarks made by a city council member during the economic development update delivered by Corporation Counsel Lee Tiernan. During the questions and comments section of the report, Councilman Barry Cohen made comments that were neither accurate nor factual, and is important that the meeting record be corrected. During the segment, Councilman Cohen was critical of the city for the lack of financial assistance and tax incentives provided to developers in Allentown. One comment was that the University Commons properties were built without tax incentives, unlike the Havens would receive. Another comment, he suggested that the city has done nothing in Allentown. Neither comment is accurate. The facts are the University Commons, the Atwoods and the Parkview both received the maximum allowed 7-year tax abatement approved by the City Council in 2017. The Atwoods project received a 70% abatement, equating to $3.766 million of property assessment deferral. The Atwood will enter its 7th and final tax deferral in 2023, when the developer will phase out with a 10% property assessment deferral worth approximately $665,000. The Parkview, which received its certificate of occupancy in late 2020, received a $2.968 million property assessment deferral in 2020 and will phase out in the 7th year, 2026, with an approximate $424,000 property assessment deferral. West Haven approved tax abatements on both projects, which will save the developer $1.2 million in tax payments during the abatement period. For the record, I believe that developers should be offered tax abatements in some instances as incentive for new development and to grow the city's commercial grand list. Mayor Rossi also requested, and the city was awarded, a $1.5 million state grant for the replacement of a sewer pipe and other infrastructure improvements at and around the Allentown projects. The sewer pipe was a critical path issue, which was holding up the development of the Parkview. The Havens developers have neither requested nor received a tax abatement from the city of West Haven. They have requested a special taxation district from the state of Connecticut, which has been approved out of the legislators' Planning and Development Committee, and hopefully will be called and approved by the entire General Assembly before the current session ends in June. Thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. As a former 2-term member of the City Council, I appreciate the hard work you do. This communication is offered, and I trust it will be taken constructively. In my opinion, there is nothing more important than accurate information. Sincerely, Michael P. Last, 62 Great Circle Road, West Haven.
Thank you. Thank you. And for the record, the council called the roll. We had a full house this evening. All council members and the mayor were present, and the council accepted and approved the minutes of the March 8th, 2021 meeting unanimously. That being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Massaro, seconded by Councilwoman McGee and Hosky. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening.
Oh, good night, everybody.
Seconded by Councilwoman McGee and Hosky. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Everyone have a good evening.
Oh, good night, everybody.
Councilman Massaro, seconded by Councilwoman McGee and Hosky. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Everyone have a